والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وعهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون صدق الله العلي العظيم. تجمع صلوات تجمع صلوات تجمع صلوات.
Bismillah. Thank you, Brother Ali, for that tremendous recitation. May it reach our hearts and go past our ears. I would like to inform everyone that there is refreshments, chai available behind the partition for both brothers and sisters. Now Inshallah, we proceed to the English lecture by Sayyid Mohammed Hassan Alsheraa. Sayyid Mohammed Hassan Alsheraa graduated from the University of Michigan with a BA in Political Science and earned a Master's in Religious Studies from the University of Detroit Mercy. He's been a lecturer since the age of 16, speaking across North America, Europe, and Africa. Since 2011, he's been pursuing his Hawza studies in the houses of Najaf al-Ashraf under the guidance of his father, Ayatollah Sayyid Basim Alsheraa. And he's continued his studies since 2015 in the seminary of Karbala in Iraq. Please, so that we can benefit from his words, inshallah, for the sake of Sayyid Zahra, welcome him to the mimbar with 3 salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll also ask my brothers, the youth, to come forward so that we can increase our benefit from the Sayyid's words, to make some rows nice here.
من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أفضل الذكر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. ثم الصلاة والسلام على العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبا القاسم محمد اللهم صل على وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أرواحنا لتراب مخدمه الفداء. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة. ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. I second to bless this gathering and majlis with a loud salawat. A third to lift all the trouble and pain and suffering in the world today with the ta'jeel al-faraj of our Imam with your loudest of voices. Ashab al-Samaha, my dear respected brothers and sisters, my mothers and fathers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is it wajib to boycott certain harmful businesses? This is a very popular question in light of the very recent troubling geopolitical events we witness in the last 2 or 3 years. Many have discovered that their local bakery, their local companies, mainstream global companies on an international level might have a hand in contributing to oppression, injustice, apartheid. Or even on a micro level, I might find that a certain school or a certain institution might embrace ideologies, principles, or even orientation, for lack of better words, that are counter the Islamic lens. I, as a Muslim, am I allowed to continue supporting or buying or contributing or even being involved in the produce and the manufacturing of a company that may not altogether be blatantly in their values and policies contributing to the oppression that we notice in the world today, but perhaps an element of it is. Akin to the example that you might have a grocery store, all of it is not blatantly projecting as we stand with very violent entities to oppress Muslims. Rather, you might have a grocery store that has a segment of alcohol. Am I allowed to work there knowing that my money can come from the business? Part of that money came from the sales of a haram product. Is that allowed or no on an Islamic legal jurisprudential level? Furthermore, 4 years ago, one of the greatest of maraji', in line with the ijma' of all the other maraji', you don't need a fatwa for the obvious, but at times it helps to see the clarity. Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani, Hafidhahullah, issued the statement, it is impermissible to purchase from companies that directly, straightforwardly buy and contribute and support any effort that harms and oppresses Muslims. And he specified a certain apartheid, oppressive, racist, unjust nation, Israeli products. Any form of contribution to this type of business is impermissible in the eyes of Allah. If it directly, in a clear way, and he's very careful with the sentencing, that has a ta'thir mu'akkadah, its effects are quite obvious. In this world today, I can't escape the fact that I, without knowing or involuntarily, in some way or the other, having my efforts go to places that I don't like. Even a bank savings account. What is a bank? When you deposit money into a savings account, not a checking account, a savings account, whereby after a year, you notice that a little percentage is given back to you as gratuity and compensation for allowing the bank to hold your money. A portion, small portion, was distributed as a loan. That's how loans are dispersed from the savings accounts and the large sum that is there to someone who may have used the loan for a mortgage, that's fine. For a halal business, that's fine. But then someone uses it to open a bar. A percent and cut of that came from my account. Is that halal or no? Ultimately, where is the line drawn? Because I don't want to sleep at night knowing that my efforts are being used. Is it halal or is it wajib or is it mubah to contribute to haram businesses? Did the imams of Ahlul Bayt boycott certain businesses in their time? Which examples can we derive from the life of the Messenger of God and the Ahlul Bayt that show us, and any of the prophets, that I might work for a haram country, but if my presence is doing good, Allah will allow it? Let us examine some of these critical questions that have an impact on our lives on a daily basis. After Allah, salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. There was a man by the name of Safwan al-Jammal. Have you read Ziyarat Warith? Assalamu alayka ya waritha Adam safwatillah. Peace be upon the inheritor of Adam, Noah, all of these beautiful anbiya, regarding to Imam al-Hussein. Safwan al-Jamal narrates this hadith. So he's a very upright Sahabi companion of Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Safwan al-Jamal, Al-Imam Musa al-Kadhim confronts him one day. He says, Safwan, everything in you is khair. Everything, imagine the Imam says that about you. Everything about you is beautiful and goodness. Except one thing. I will be distraught. Sayyidi wa Mawlai. You just said everything is good. What's that one thing? Imam al-Kadhim said, I don't like that you use your business to support the Khalifa, Harun al-Abbasi. Safwan al-Jamal, from his name you understand his profession. Al-Jamal, camel. He was basically like, do you guys know the chauffeur? If you have a bunch of cars and you have a business, that these people will take your cars and park it. Or he was more than that, like a leasing company. He had over tens of thousands of camels to his name. A camel back then is like a Ferrari today. Expensive, valuable. Imagine having 10,000 Ferraris. Imagine that, right? He would rent them for you. He would lease them to you. And so he was so successful that the Khalifa would use his businesses because he has a lot. He would inherit them from his family perhaps until one day he owned the entire business. Harun al-Abbasi, the Khalifa that ultimately imprisoned Imam al-Kadhim and led to his poisoning and killing and hurt many of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, would use the services of Safwan al-Jamal. Al-Imam al-Kadhim highlights this about him. His kullu ma fika khair. Except one thing. He's like, what? That you use your businesses to serve Harun. Safwan begins to defend himself. Sayyidi wa Mawlai, I only rented the camels for him. I leased them so that he can do Hajj. So do you see the excuse? I only lent him my camels because he says, I'm going to come from Baghdad, the capital, to Mecca. Safwan, give us, let's say, 800 camels, me and my caravan. So he's just doing Hajj. The problem is, imagine if like a big tyrant, you can think of many in your mind right now, says, give me your services, I'd like to go to ziyarah. No, you're not going to ziyarah, not with this type of history of yours. He says, Al-Imam al-Kadhim, and I have a question for you. Oh, he's going to Hajj using your services. Do you wish and hope that Harun stays alive with all the killing he's done, the imprisonment, the persecution against the Shia and the lovers of Ahlul Bayt? Do you wish he could stay alive so that he pays you if he hasn't paid you yet? Safwan says, to be honest, yeah. I would hope he doesn't die before paying me. So in my heart, I wish he doesn't die. Now imagine I provide services to a horrible individual. Technically, my paycheck comes from this guy. So I actually would not want this horrible individual to leave. He just said, give me my money, then go, tawakkal ala Allah and die. He's like, no, I actually hope he stays alive. Ma'annahu, considering that he's oppressed you, ya Ibn Rasulullah, he's taking your rights. Safwan says, I now understand. From now on, I will never do any services with any individual who I hope would live long enough so that they could at least pay me. Why would I want a tyrant and an oppressor to live long because of my benefits? I can find an alternative. I don't have to work for you. If I find an alternative, then I'm fine. And there are many alternatives. This is an example where the Imam says, you have an alternative, you should have taken it instead. Many other people would love to have your camel services and being leased and rented. In the case where you don't have an alternative, do you have a choice? You don't have a choice? Then are you sinning? Not necessarily. Al-Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was approached by one of his companions named Yunus al-Naqash. Again, the last name tells you what he does. Jamal, camels. This guy is a renter. Yunus al-Naqash, Naqash means what? The one that carves and makes fine designs into stones. Naqash. Yunus al-Naqash was basically a jeweler. He comes one day knocking at the house of Al-Imam al-Hadi, the 10th Imam of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, and he says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, adrikni. Oh, the son of Rasulullah, save me. I am in for it. It's like, relax, what happened? Al-Mutawakkil al-Abbasi is going to slaughter me. He's like, how, why? He says, you know I'm a jeweler. I take a chisel and I take a gem and I carve names on it and I design it. He says, yeah, the Khalifa employed me today. He says, okay, could you refuse? He says, not really, he employed me. He says, what's the problem? He said his daughter, one of his daughters, Al-Mutawakkil, Al-Abbasi, had a daughter. He said in one of the expeditions in the wars, they discovered what they call a durra, a beautiful crystal. Big, beautiful crystal. Al-Mutawakkil Al-Abbasi said, I want you to write my daughter's name on the crystal. And I want to gift it to her. He's like, okay. Is it halal? He's like, of course it is. You're being forced to do it. Whatever. He's like, that's not the problem. He's like, what? As I was carving her name, the crystal split in half. I am done for it. He's going to say, this is a rare gem, and you split it in half? He's going to kill me. What do I do? Al-Imam Al-Hadi, the granddad of our Imam, said, don't worry. If I pray for you, will that give you peace? He says, if you pray for me, why would I be afraid? He says, then let me pray for you. This, by the way, shows you and I. If you're ever in a tight situation, ask the Imam of your time, Sayyidi wa Mawlai, pray for me. Because the Imam is among us. Ask him, when have you done that? Say, I am in a very difficult situation. Beseech Allah, wasila. He says to Imam Al-Hadi, pray for me. Imam Al-Hadi raises his hands and he begins to say, oh Allah, lift any pain from the followers of Ahl al-Bayt and the Quran and the Thaqalain. Especially, bil khusus, this man Yunus al-Naqash. Imam Al-Hadi says, how do you feel now? I feel good, but I don't know what I'm going to say. Tomorrow, he's going to ask for this. He says, I prayed for you. It's a dua mustajab. Have tawakkul. Imam Al-Hadi is normal. Yunus is still a bit shaky. The next day, Yunus al-Naqash comes to the house of Imam Al-Hadi. And this time he's smiling. He says, you changed. What happened? He says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, when I got back home, Al-Mutawakkil Al-Abbasi dispatched a messenger to my home. He said, by the way, regarding the gem that I want you to carve my daughter's name on it, yeah, her sister got jealous that this was happening. So if you don't mind, could you split it in half? Could you split it in half? One for her, one for her. And you know what I said to him? Imam says, what did you say? He's like, I'll think about it. In that moment, he realized that the Imam brought him his peace and serenity. But overall, what was happening? He was employed by an individual where can he refuse? No, he can't refuse. You see the trend now. If you're in a situation where there is no alternative, I can't but have to pay taxes. There's no alternative to that. Yes, a small portion might go to efforts. I even remember, and we're not even mentioning any names here, some have the concern that if I go to some place, let's say like Hajj, then is all of my funds, are they all going to Hajj? Or will they be used to potentially hurt others as well, oppress other people additionally? The issue is not here. The issue is it blatant and obvious? As the issue and the verdict by our Grand Maraj made clear, that it needs to be quite obvious. Additionally, if it's a matter that is not avoidable, Hajj is wajib. That's quite clear. Now, in this circumstance, we find two of these different examples. One man who has many options, he doesn't have to rent out his camels to the Khalifa, and the Khalifa could find different camels. But the other man is the only one that could carve and edge all of these designs, and he had no other choice. There's another option for the betterment of society. One has a choice, one doesn't have a choice. One sees that I am the only one that can change a corrupt society. Therefore, Allah has me fulfill this role. Nabi Yusuf. Nabi Yusuf, he's in a kafir environment. He's with people, number one, they've accused him of injustice. They threw him in jail for 7 years. They've deprived him from his family for over 40 years. After that, he's a slave. After all of that, they find him quite intelligent and they employ him as an advisor to the king. He develops and raises and ranks and goes forward and forward. He brings the king to Islam. He brings everyone else away from polytheism. Yes, he's in a government that worships Ra. Amun, I think. If you've seen the famous show, Yuzarsi. Yes, they're worshipping idols. Yes, they're worshipping stones. Yusuf says, I know I could leave. I'm a prophet. Allah can give me whatever I'd like. Not only am I going to stay, I'm going to become the minister of agriculture. Yusuf alayhi salam was the one responsible of dispersing agriculture and the handling of wheat, barley, seeds, and that when he had that critical dream that he sees a drought coming for the next 7 years by representation of the symbolism of the thin, weak, skinny cows. The baqarah was representative of the livestock and the health of a society. The dreams have a reality to them. If a prophet has the dream, definitely. Sometimes our dreams have them as well, but in most cases, not necessarily. He was the owner. He's like, yeah, I know they're not an upright society, but I am going to change them. All of this shows us that you're never given no option. If you can improve a society, even if it's not a Muslim society, then Allah might expect that from you. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, was he not in a Muslim society? The society founded by the biggest Muslim Rasulullah? But he did not chase Khilafah. In fact, when his haqq and rights were usurped from him, for 23 years, the first Khalifa ruled for 2 years. The second Khalifa ruled for 10 years. The third Khalifa ruled for 12 years. And so you had in total these 24 years, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was deprived of the right to rule the Muslim Ummah as instructed from the day of Ghadir. At the end of it, they come to Imam Ali. Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib, please, 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 you are the one that we need. Save us. Be the Khalifa, rule over us, command us. Imam Ali, the first thing he says is, this Khilafah, I am not interested in it. I'm not interested in being the main man, the biggest celebrity, the one in charge, the powerful king. This Khilafah, and he uses a very interesting example, is less valuable to me than the water under the nose of a goat. I don't even value this Khilafah. One day Ibn Abbas sees him fixing his sandal. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib had a sandal and it had snapped. In that moment, he asks Ibn Abbas, he's like, Ibn Abbas, what do you think is the value of this sandal? Ibn Abbas says, it's broken. I don't think it has any value. Imam Ali says, this sandal is more valuable to me than this Khilafah. I am not interested in it. So it's a Muslim society, but Imam Amir al-Mu'minin says, I'm not interested. However, it's my taklif. It's my responsibility. You guys took the rights away from me. Now you're coming back begging me for this. I'll come back. But I just want you to know, I never chased it. It chased me. In these circumstances, we realize that everyone has their own role and no one can come and blame other people and say, why are you still going and shopping at X, Y, and Z? For example, many people are not aware. Additionally, what constitutes where a business becomes haram or halal? According to our ulama, it's if the support and contribution to any evil entity is clear. If it's a case that a board member, a retired board member, issued their solidarity and support, but it's not quite clear what's happening, it's just let's take this and make it our symbol, that would not be an incumbent expectation upon us as Muslims. If, however, it's we stand with those brave men and women who fight for their rights in this effort such that we hope that one day we could ensure a long-lasting peace and stability. If they do, and our funds and proceeds will go straight to their pockets, ensuring that they resist all of the chaos that's happening. Oh, in that case, good luck with, you're not going to get my business. It's not a matter, by the way, of what do you think my boycott is going to do? I'm not going to drink a Frappuccino from that business anymore. How's that going to change? It's not like I was buying the McFries or the Flurries from that business anyways. Oh, I cut it. How am I going to? What is my boycott going to do? It's not even about how are you going to impact it fiscally. It's not about that. It's where was your heart in these circumstances? One day a man asks Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, in Nahj al-Balagha this is found. He says, Ya Ali ibn Abi Talib, after the battle of Jamal, Imam Ali just finished fighting against Aisha in the battle of Jamal. Horrible battle, very embarrassing battle for the Muslims, very embarrassing. Why? On one hand you found the son-in-law, the messenger of Allah's cousin, his successor, and on the other hand you find his estranged wife, and they're going at it. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen tried to postpone this. Let's not do this, come and see reason. Imam Ali never began the battle. He waited until they shot the first arrow. Ahlul Bayt never initiate conflicts until he said, then at this point we have to defend. After all of this carnage happens and ends, a man says to him, Ya Ali, I wish my brother was able to join us. My brother, Wallah, I wish he was here with us today. But he wasn't able to come. And I came. I hope he's not considered someone who missed out on his responsibilities. What did Imam Ali tell him? So you have what? A moment where there was an opportunity to stand and resist. To be at the forefront of saying, hey, this oppression, this regime, we're not going to tolerate it. Imam Ali fought and he won. Imagine you missed out on it. How would you feel? You feel left out. A man says, I was with you, alhamdulillah. But my brother, I wish he was with us. Imam Ali says one thing. He said one thing. Was his heart with us? Was his qalb among us? Yani he's not here in person, but the Imam wants to know, where was his heart? When this horrible genocide took place, where was your heart? The man says, Wallah, his heart was with you. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, then bear witness. Allah testify that he was as if fighting alongside us first row. Why? Because it's not about let me go and make an actual, palpable, tangible difference where I can see the change I made. Even though you can see the change you can make, by the way, by boycotting clearly, obviously haram businesses. It's not just about that. It's about you just demonstrated to Allah that you have a heart. Because wallah, people don't have hearts. You know what we call those? We call those vampires. He's heartless. He doesn't have a heart. He's watching the carnage unfold, the barbarianism unfold on his palms, and he's like, yeah, next. No heart? I'm not saying go to the front lines. Abadan. La. If you can, and you can actually help out, then may Allah bless that intention. But where is your heart? It's not saying do something. It's about you have to be in a place where you say, Ya Allah, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum. Imam Ali says that in that case, it's as if he was standing alongside us. Now, boycotting something may not be with the goal of, I want to see that business never exist. Oh, it existed for the last 80 years. It's probably going to exist again. But I want to demonstrate that when you stand alongside oppression, watch me never stand alongside you. Why? Because Rasulullah says, إِذَا أَحَبَّ عَمَلَ قَوْمًا حُشِّرَ مَعَهُمْ. If you love, anyone who loves the actions of certain people, you will be resurrected with them on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Inshallah, they help you. I need to at least show that I don't love their actions. So what do I need to do? The 3-step process. Rasulullah says, if you see any oppression in front of you, what's the first thing you do? Amar bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar. I actually can't do that. I'm watching from miles away. I can see it happening in front of me. If I intervene, I will either be in very difficult circumstances. I won't make it. I have responsibilities. If I can't change it with my hand, Rasulullah says, any form of injustice, change it with your hands. If I can't do that, change it with your tongues. Speak. Use your voice. Now I know it's also uncomfortable to speak out. And don't tell anyone else, why haven't you spoken out? You don't know their life. You don't know their family situation. You don't know their business situation. You don't know the fact that they barely have their legal status, and any observation will get them sent away. More difficulty, although if they're willing to sacrifice that, then that's honorable. But at the same time, we can't superimpose expectations. You don't tell others, why don't you do? Until you're living comfortably where you can speak out comfortably. But a person who can't, don't judge. There's a brother, a friend of mine. He was applying after we finished our masters. I have to show you that I have a master's. After we finished graduate school, he applied for a PhD at a university that is very well known. I won't mention where. He applied to this university and he's going to get in. I know he's going to get in. He's cut out. He's very good. He's smart. He has everything going for him. He just needs one thing. What? A letter of recommendation. The problem is, my friend attended a protest and stood in proud and said, I won't tolerate hayhat min al-dhillah. And he spoke out. That heartless professor who taught him, who was completely with him throughout the process, who guided him through his dissertation, said, I don't find myself inclined to support you based on your recent behavior. You and I don't share the same values. I will not write you a letter of recommendation. Now, in his circumstance, he still turned around and said, well, guess what? I never wanted a letter of recommendation from someone like you. You think I would be proud that you, who sees me standing with the oppressed, is something that doesn't align with your values? Thank you for demonstrating to me that you were never someone I should have ever respected. Thank you. I never wanted your letter of recommendation. Now, other individuals might say, La Sayyid, in my life, I struggled for this moment. Then that's fine. You don't need to speak out, but at least have your heart in the right place. Use your tongue. If you can't do that because others are depending on you, because you need to make ends meet, that's fine. That's fine. You need to make ends meet. You can handle speaking out and you can still make ends meet, but others can't. Then let's not superimpose. The other deal is what? Have your bloody heart in the right place. No pun intended. In this case, what do? I can't speak to make the change. I can't use my hands to make the change. I use dua. The mayor of Milano, Italy, you remember when COVID happened? He showcased that a pandemic has affected them so much, this article was very fascinating, that they can no longer handle the capacity of the amount of patients they were receiving in all of their hospitals were totally filled. Ventilators, they didn't have enough because they have many who are elderly there. And so in that case, he's issued a very heartwarming statement that I genuinely think is the right thing to say in these times. He said, we ran out of any and every solution. La, we have hospitals. La, we have enough machines. And we have an influx of sick people that we need to treat. We don't know what to do. He says, we've exhausted the efforts of machinery, but now we will begin the efforts of prayer. It's beautiful. Prayer. Why would you ever undermine that? Don't undermine your prayers. Make dua. Alhamdulillah, now after that time, after that phase in this bizarre dunya, ad-diniya, it is over. Do you now look back and say, Alhamdulillah, those prayers that we made us through, because we didn't know where we were going to end. We didn't know if the world would stay shut down for the next 40 years. The dua helped us. Ya man ismuhu dawa, wa dhikruhu shifa, wa ta'atuhu ghina, irham min ra'su malihi al-raja, wa silahuhu al-buka. These are ad'iyat and prayers we need to utilize. Change the oppression with dua. Allah will answer. Allah will answer your dua, inshallah ta'ala, if it's with a sincere, genuine heart. It has to be with ikhlas. You can't just ask Allah for something, make this happen when Allah has been asking you for salah, and you expect Him to give you what you want. When you've been ignoring what He wants from you. Before you make any dua, to get anything done and accomplished, always begin by saying, Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Why? Clean that file. It's like, here, can you process this file for me, Ya Allah, and make this happen? Yeah, that's dirty. I'm not touching it. Clean it. Say astaghfirullah. Then, say as-salawat. Ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Because as-salawat is a dua. As-salawat is Allahumma salli. Oh Allah, raise, elevate, bless the status of Rasulullah and his Ahlul Bayt. You're asking Allah for something. When you ask Allah for something, that is called dua, beseeching. When you secretly, personally, intimately, privately ask Allah for something, that is called munajat. Have you heard of the munajat al-Sha'baniyya or munajat Amir al-Mu'mineen? مولاي يا مولاي أنت المولى وأنا العبد وهل يرحم العبد إلا المولى أنت الغني وأنا الفقير. These are whispered prayers. Munajat are more critical. Why? Because you're not really pouring your heart as such. You're asking in the most soft way ever. And you're saying, I know it's in your hands. I'm not even going to beg you at this point because I have that much tawakkul ala Allah. If you do istighfar, then salawat, then ask for your hajah. This is the method. Ask for your hajah, then end it with salawat. Why? Because salawat is always going to be accepted. Dua mustajab. Then ask for your hajah, maybe it'll be mustajab. Then ask for another salawat, dua mustajab. So you're sandwiching two approved du'as with one that is pending. If this is accepted and this is accepted, the one in the middle will most likely be accepted. You know how it's like when someone comes and gives you tea? These three brothers right here. Someone comes and gives the guy on the left tea, skips the guy in the middle, gives the guy on the right tea. There's only one teacup left. He's going to give it to you. Because if he gives it to this guy, there's only one left and you're the only one, it's coming for you. But you have to begin with approval, end with approval, sandwich the pending process in the middle. When you do that, watch how the trouble in front of you changes. Now, you're probably thinking, how am I able to change global trouble? The global trouble isn't the killing and the genocide. It's the complacency of a world that finds it quiet and finds it okay to be quiet. That's the true carnage. The reality is, many of the mu'mineen who died in the way of Allah died as shuhada. And وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. You congratulate those that say, Ahsant, you made it to the highest level of taqwa, shaheed. And the shaheed sees, shahad, he sees, he's alive. Because that's why he's not dead, or she, receiving rizq from Allah. If I cry that I miss you. I'm not crying for your suffering. I cry that when I see after a 13-story building is rendered to rubble, that you can still pray salah to Jum'ah over what was once your house. Wallah, I'll never miss a salah then. I cry that it's me who don't have any of these troubles happening, I'm still missing my salah. That's the true oppression that I notice. That when I see oppression and injustice in the world, I'm always thinking, poor you. Now what do you mean poor you? Poor ana. Poor the guy or the girl who is not sought after by Allah. Because when Allah loves a person, He brings him or her to them. Allah, we have in Arabic, haba fakhada. Allah loved him, so He brought him. Otherwise, habibi, Ahlul Bayt would have been the first to complain. But look at what they went through. Do you feel sorry for Imam al-Hussein? Ask yourself, do you feel sorry for Imam? No, proud that I have an Imam like him, who in any moment at times could have just said, fine, here's my bay'ah, give me water. He still refused. And I'm so proud that I have an example like his brother, who when he could have drank, threw it away. And I'm so proud that I have an example like Zainab, who I don't feel sorry for her, because I see oppression, it's the human response. To say, you're oppressed, I feel bad. No. I feel proud that when she was asked, what do you see? She says, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. And I feel especially proud that when I look at the likes like Sayyida Zahra alayha salam, who when she saw the time to boycott, she boycotted. Lady Zahra said, it's my taklif to boycott those that usurped my haqq. What did she do to boycott them? Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim tells me and you, I don't need to tell you, that matat Fatima wa hiya ghadiba ala Umar wa Abu Bakr. She died and she's angry. وَانْقَطَعَ الْكَلَامِ مَعَهُمَا. And she did no longer speak with them. She boycotted them. وَلَمْ تَأْذَنْ لَهُمَا لِزِيَارَتِهَا بَعْدَ مَمَاتِهَا. And she refused that they would attend her funerals. I am not saying this as pejoratives or lower jabs. Hey, we got you, oh non-Shia. I am referencing a resource that showcases Islamic history, which you and I have to agree. I mean, it's in your Sahih authentic, so whether you like it or not. And I can only see, why is Fatima Zahra boycotting? Can it be her boycott was effective? Imagine if she just entertained. Fine, you're the ruler. In this case, we'll give you allegiance. Let's avoid trouble. She did not do that. Rather, Sayyida Zahra said, when you took my land, does that sound familiar? When you took my land, you want me to roll over and turn the other way? I know you barely hear my voice because I'm Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alameen. I don't even want to give you the pleasure of hearing my voice, but I'm going to ignite the fiery, legendary, epic Al-Khutbah Al-Fadakiyyah. Wallah, this khutbah is something impeccable. It's absolutely powerful. Lady Zahra goes to the Masjid of Rasulullah, accompanied with Asma bint Umays, Ayman, accompanied with all the upright women, As-Sayyida Fidda of society. She wears her aba, proud and upright. By the way, this is after the ambush. Ambush happens. Pain for the next week. And she goes to the masjid and they don't even get the chance to see her. What does she do? The women lift up the partition as such and they said, look, Fatima al-Zahra is coming. You're not going to turn your face, we know. We're going to raise the partition in front of you and she's going to speak. And the beginning of the khutbah says, فَآنَتْ أَنَّ. She let out a sigh. You know when someone is really tired? Really tired. Before you begin speaking, you just go like, Allah, Ya Allah. When she آنت أنه made that sigh, فانبهرت الجميع بالبكاء. Everyone became astonished and started to cry. ضجت الناس بالبكاء. Why? When Sayyida Zahra shows you that she's hurt, you can't but feel like Rasulullah is hurt. Why? Because Fatima, روحي التي بين جنبي. She's my soul that's between my forehead. Rasulullah is hurt right now. And they live their whole life seeing Rasul. And they know what she just went through. By the way, we mentioned this. They don't deny that they ambushed her house. They don't deny that what else? That they confiscated her property. They don't deny that they threatened to burn her house. They don't deny, because it's in their material as well, that they made her angry. They don't deny that she boycotted them. Because here a boycott is wajib. Because if I don't boycott, you will all think it's halal to accept and embrace them. Right here, no, I have to take a stance. Right here, I can't do it anymore. They don't deny it, they just deny that she was killed by them. That's okay, that's fine. Deny that. How do you accept the rest and deny this one moment here? She makes that sigh and she begins to speak. If you read Al-Khutbah Al-Fadakiyyah, read it. It's like 8 pages. It is so eloquent, so articulate. It is so beautiful, pontificating, using the examples by praising. She's so hurt, she praises Allah for like 2 pages. Praising Allah. Then she says, do you guys know the fact that if it wasn't for my dad, Rasulullah, you would be herds of sheep eating grass unclothed. It's through my father, Rasulullah, that he revived you through a renaissance of ilm and taqwa. If it wasn't for him, you would be burying babies alive until today. That's my father, Rasulullah. Then she brings Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. And how dare you think you can stand where he should be standing right now? My husband, it's not just her husband, that's my Imam. That's my Imam. Ali ibn Abi Talib is the Imam of my time. I worship Allah through him. And she begins to talk about the haqq and the fadl of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib to them. First Allah, then Rasulullah, then Imam Ali, then she says, I'll talk to you about how mad I am about you. Is it from the justice of Allah that you inherit from your dad, but I can't inherit from my dad? Because the claim is that the Prophet, you say, he mentioned to you that we Anbiya cannot leave behind waratha irth, inheritance. She says, do you think that you can inherit from your dad, but I can't inherit from mine? The fact is, it's not even inheritance, it's a gift. It's a gift. Okay, even if I'm going to use your argument, I'll meet you, halfway. No, I'll meet you all the way. I still will prove you wrong. وَوَرَثَ سُلَيْمَانَ دَاوُودَ. But the problem is, you don't read the Quran. Ouch. The thing is, let me be like Lady Zahra, who if she says that claim, you don't read the Quran, that doesn't apply to me. Let me read the Quran then. وَوَرَثَ سُلَيْمَانَ دَاوُودَ. Sulaiman inherited from his dad, David. Is that not enough? How about, but the thing is, Sayyidah Zahra is so smart, of course. She says, عَلَى أَنَّ الْعِلْمَ لَا يُورَث. With keeping in mind, knowledge cannot be inherited. Because what was going to be said? Sulaiman inherited from Dawood his ilm. Because the next ayah says, عُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ عُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ. O people, Sulaiman says, I have learned how to speak the language of the birds. Sulaiman didn't learn this because dad dies, his brain, his knowledge transfers, processes into my brain. Allah made me a Nabi. It's not my dad dies and then whatever was in his head comes to mine. That is from Allah. She says, and with the knowledge that you can't inherit ilm. Because they were about to give that response. They didn't know what to say. So, but forget that. Have you not read the ayah when Allah says, when Nabi Zakaria asks Allah, give me a son. يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ. Who can inherit from me and inherit from the family of Yaqub. Fine, forget all this. How about when Allah says in the Holy Quran, it is prescribed upon you that if death comes to you, that you write خَيْرَ الْوَصِيَّةِ كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. It was prescribed upon you that if death comes upon you, أَنْ يَكْتُبَ خَيْرَ الْوَصِيَّةِ. That Rasulullah, this is lovely, Rasulullah is teaching others, write a wasiyah, but he doesn't follow his own advice. You insult my dad when you say that I can't inherit from my dad, even though it was inheritance. All of that, they begin to cry. She leaves them. She goes back to her home and she says to her husband, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I never want to see them at all. A boycott ila yawm al-qiyamah. Fatima bad'atun minni, Rasulullah said. Man adhaha faqad adhani. وَمَنْ آذَانِ فَقَدْ آذَى اللَّهِ. She died angry with adha and adhiya, raging her heart. The adha of Fatima al-Zahra is synchronized with the adha of Allah. And if she died that way, that adha will be transcendental until the day of judgment. Such that Lady Zahra says to As-Sayyida Asma bint Umays, Ya Asma, I think my time is coming near. They oppressed me. They usurped my rights. Asma, they didn't even let me cry for Rasulullah. Ali ibn Abi Talib built Sayyidah Zahra Baytul Ahzan, the house of sorrow. Why? Could you believe this? Believe this. They came to Imam Ali and said, Ya Ali, Fatima's crying is annoying us. He says she is crying for Rasulullah. And if you had any shame in your heart, you would also cry as such. He says, Ya Ali, because Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra's home was one wall from Masjid Rasulullah, where they would always congregate. And so they would hear the crying of Sayyidatina Zahra, Sayyidina Nisa al-Alameen. Ali, do something about this. We can't tolerate this. Imam Ali goes and builds her a house outside Medina. You and I will go do azaa over there. When they go, one of the days, they find that they also chopped down and burnt down that house. Because they're used to burning down houses. Sayyidah Zahra says to Asma, they didn't even let me mourn Rasulullah. Asma, Wallah, let it be known that I am never satisfied with this ummah that found it normal to force themselves into my own home, to take my husband in this way, like they take their sheep and force it left and center and right. But Asma, I have one request. I feel my time is near, so I'm going to retreat to the room. I will read the Quran. Allah, Allah. If you don't hear my voice, check on me. Then that means I have returned to Allah. But before anything, if Al-Hassan and Hussein come home, don't tell them what happened to their mom before they have eaten. Because I fear that if they hear what happens, I fear they won't eat. Look how she still cares about her children. Sayyidah Zahra alayha salam returns back to her room, beginning to recite the Quran al-Kareem, beginning to say Bismillah wa billah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. As she reads the Holy Quran, As-Sayyida Asma bint Umays checks on her from time to time. When she goes to look, she finds Lady Zahra laying down reading from the Kitab of Allah. As Sayyida Asma bint Umays returns back, she can no longer hear the words of Fatima az-Zahra. She goes to check on her, and she finds Lady Zahra no longer speaking and silent. And then she says, Sayyidati, بأبلغي سلامي إلى رسول الله. Oh my lady, send your salams and my salams to your father Rasulullah. That moment Hassan and Hussein come to the home. Asma bint Umays says, oh my beloved sons, why don't you go and eat? Hassan says, oh Asma, have you ever seen us eat without our mother? She said to them that your mother is asleep, for sleep is similar to death. Imam al-Hussein says, oh Asma, this is not the time for our mother to sleep. She would be reading the Quran at this time. How much do you read the Quran of Lady Zahra? As the young Imam Hassan al-Hussein, 6 and 7 years old, they run to the room to go and see their mother laying down. Both of them begin to cry and call out, Ummah, kallimini. Mother, speak to me. They then rush to the masjid of Rasulullah. Salman al-Muhammadi sees them running. He says, Habibay, my beloveds, why do you run and cry? They said, Ajaban ya Salman, lam tantabaq as-sama' ala al-ard, laqad matat ummuna Fatima. Salman, how strange it is that the heavens has not collapsed on the earth. Our mother Fatima has just passed. They get to the masjid, they find Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. They tell him what happened. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was standing. He falls straight down flat. This warrior who none could fight him, none could best him, only falls once in his life. That's when he hears the news of Lady Zahra passing. As Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen then takes his beloved wife, he begins to wash the beloved body of Lady Zahra. Sayyida Asma says, she narrates this, that I saw my Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen. As he is washing her body, he then retreats back to the corner of the room. As he lays down, he puts his hands over his knees and his head down and cry. She says, Mawlai, al-mawtu lakum aada wa karamatukum min Allah al-shahada. this is normal to you, Ahlul Bayt. He says, Asma, don't blame me. As I was brushing the water over her, I felt her hips broken. She didn't tell me about this so that she doesn't disturb me. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, as he goes to bury Lady Zahra, he is surrounded by Hassan al-Hussein and Zainab and Kulthum. He tells them, say goodbye to your mother one last final time before we rest her in this abode and she moves on to the akhirah. They all run to their mother. A young Imam al-Hassan throws himself on the feet of his mother and he calls out, Umma kallimini, ana waladuk al-Hassan. A young Imam al-Hussein throws himself on the chest of Lady Zahra and he calls out, Umma kallimini, ana waladuk al-Hussein. Umma kallimini, ana habibuk al-Hussein. Hadith says Jibreel comes down. He says, Ya Ali, move Hussein from the chest of his mother. The Malaika cannot handle seeing Hussein crying over the chest of his mother. You know where I am going. We say, Ya Malaikat Allah, how did you then handle seeing shimmer on the chest of Hussein in Karbala? That night, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen goes to the masjid of Rasulullah and he begins to offer his condolences and aza. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I've returned the amana back to you of which you entrusted me with. But in what state did I return her back to you? Imam Ali begins to cry and cry until he begins to sleep next to the grave of the Prophet. He sees in his dream Lady Zahra say to him, Ya Ali, go back to the home. Zainab just woke up, the 5-year-old Zainab, and she is asking, where is my mother? Ya Zahra, what about if you were in Karbala? What would you say about the treatment of Zainab on that day? لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين فرج عنا يا الله. All together, brothers and sisters, اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. All together, يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. اللهم بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها شاف مرضانا فرج عنا اقضي حوائجنا. Brothers and sisters, before we conclude, many have requested on behalf Layali al-Fatimiya to remember their marda. Many are unwell, many are sick, brothers and sisters. There are those out there who have no one to pray for them. There are those out there who are suffering in the world, in Lebanon, in Palestine, now in Syria and elsewhere, and wherever there are Shia, Amir al-Mu'mineen, anyone who has no one to remember them. Let us give them these ayat, أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَ 5 times, لِشِفَاءِ الْمَرْضَى وَكَشْفِ الْهُمُومِ. But all together, inshallah, on the night of Fatimiyya al-Kubra, تقضى inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. All together. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا أمن يجيب أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم اكشف السوء والبلاء عنا يا الله. اللهم المرضى المنظورين شافي وعافهم يا الله. اللهم ارزقنا زيارة الحسين في الدنيا وشفاعته في الآخرة، وإلى أرواح العلماء والشهداء سيما من أوصانا بالدعاء. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. But before it, the loudest of your salawat. صل على محمد. فاتحة. بسم الله.
اللهم صل على محمد و آل محمد. من تقاضا میکنم که از برادران به احترام فاطمه زهرا سلام الله علیها تشریف بیارید جلو، یک مستطیلی تشکیل بدید که برنامه عزاداری انشالله شروع کنیم. اجماعاً صلوات. هیچ دانی دختر خیر البشر از چه جای حیدر آمد پشت در، دید مولایش علی تنها شده، خانه‌اش محصور دشمنها شده. بر دفاع همسرش، بر دفاع همسرش فردی ندید، بین آن نامردها مردی ندید، بین آن نامردها مردی ندید. گفت باید پیش امواج خطر یار بغل یار گرد سپر. فاطمه تنها طرفدار علی بود، فاطمه تنها طرفدار علی بود. در هجوم دشمن یار علی بود. آن که باشد مرد این سنگر منم، اولین قربانی حیدر منم. دست شستم ز جان خویشتن، ای مغیره هرچه میخواهی بزن، ای نامرد هرچه میخواهی بزن بزن بزن. یا سیدتی و مولاتی یا فاطمة الزهراء، ناهلة الجسم یعنی نحیف تو دل شکسته میری، جوونی اما مادر پیری، بهونه سفر میگیری، باکیت الان یعنی بارون قصه غامی باره، چشای مادر ما تاره، علی دیگه شده بیچاره، منحدت راکیانی، زبون برات نبوده مانو، زبون برات نمونده بانو، کی قلب تو شکونده بانو، کی بال تو شکسته بانو، معصبت الراس یعنی بستی سری رو که پر درده، رنگ رخ تو مادر زرده، تو کوچکی جسارت کرده، تو کوچکی جسارت کرده، این معز الاولیاء، این مذل الاعداء، این الطالب بدم المحسن بدم الزهراء، بدم المقتول بكربلاء، يا ابن الحسن روحي فداك، متى ترانا ونراك، منتظرانت یکی یکی دارن میرن زیر خاک آقا جون، العجل یا مهدی، العجل یا مهدی، العجل یا مهدی. اجماع سلام. حرفی بزن با من طاقت ندارم، حرفی بزن با من طاقت ندارم، من طاقت درد و غربت ندارم، حرفی بزن با من طاقت ندارم، من طاقت درد و غربت ندارم، داری خبر بی پاسخ شد سلامم، دیگر در مدینه حرمت ندارم، زهرا زهرا جانم جانم، زهرا 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 جانم جانم، everyone زهرا جانم جانم، من بگو از بین در و دیوار، از هجوم سخت آن قوم اشرار. با من بگو از محسن 6 ماهه، آن غنچه پرپر از ضرب مسمار. زهرا زهرا جانم جانم everyone زهرا جانم جان را، ای بانوی قامت کمان غیدر، ای بانوی قامت کمان غیدر، ناله غایت برده امان حیدر. جارو مزن با این دست شکسته، جارو مزن با این دست شکسته، ای خانه دار مهربان حیدر. زهرا زهرا جانم جانم زهرا 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 جانم زهرا 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 جانم. بغض عجیبی در گلویت افتاد، وقتی که زخمی بر پهلویت افتاد. با کینه اجسانی طوری لگد زد، شکسته شد درب و بر رویت افتاد. زهرا 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 جانم زهرا زهرا جانم زهرا 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 آه یتیمان میرسد بر گوش سادات، آه یتیمان میرسد بر گوش سادات، تابوت زهرا میرود بر گوش سادات، تابوت زهرا میرود بر گوش دادات. تدفین زهرا از شروع گشت شبانه، تدفین زهرا از شروع گشت شبانه، تشییع شده در اوج غربت مخفیانه، تشییع شده در اوج غربت مخفیانه. ابیها کشته شد آه و ویلا، ابیها کشته شد آه و ویلا، ابیها ها کشته شد آقا و ویلا ابیها ویلا مادرتون را پشت در به خون کشتن با ضربه سیلی و تا زیون کشتن باید بیایید حیدر و یاری نمایید در پای تابوت گریه و زاری نمایید بزعه تاها کشته شد آقا با ویلا ابیها کشته شد آقا با ویلا everyone ابیها کشته شد آقا با ویلا شد آهو لا امشب نمیخواد روزه سنگین بخونیم باید که همراه علی یاسین بخونیم امشب همین تابوتو دیدن گریه داره آه یتیمان را شنیدن گریه داره هستی مولا کشته شد آقا با ویلا ابیها 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 کشته شد مادر سزا زد پشت در مادر صدا زد پشت در کجایی غیرت الله این الحسن این الحسین این بقیت الله خون دلت از چشمان مجروح تو میباره کوچه عجب زخمی به روی قلب تو میذاره قصهات یا عالم ابن الحسن ای عزیز فاطمه ابن الحسن ای عزیزه ای عزیز ابن یه بار دیگه صدا بزن ای عزیزه روی لبهام نور و قدر و کوثر و طاقا ذکر نورانی عاشق ها تسبیحات حضرت زهرا همه حفظید روی لبهام نور و قدر و کوثر و طاقا ذکر نورانی عاشق ها تسبیحات حضرت را الله اکبر این همه جلال الله اکبر این همه شکوه الله اکبر در راه علی فاطمه ایستاده مثل یکو. everyone صلی الله علیه فاطمه صلی الله علیه صلی الله علیه فاطمه صلی الله. فاطمه میدونم که راز شهادت این اشکو رنگ خدا میگیرم من با تسبیحات حضرت زهرا. الحمدلله که نوکرتم، الحمدلله که مادرمی، الحمدلله از بچگیام مادر سایه روی سرمی. صلی الله علیک فاطمه صلی الله علیک فاطمه صلی الله علیک فاطمه صلی الله. یا فاطمه از غصه ها چشم عاشقا شده دریا. روزه بعد نماز ما everyone تسبیحات حضرت زهرا. سبحان الله باغ بهشت و دود، سبحان الله از لحظه ورود، سبحان الله پیش چشم علی آیه های کوثر شده کبود. صلی الله علیک یا فاطمه صلی الله علیک یا فاطمه صلی الله علیک یا فاطمه صلی الله. این روزه به اون روزه، این مجلس به اون مجلس، این اشکا همه نظر گل نرگس. آه یما یما قتلوك عدوانا. يما يما ضربوك عدوانا. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت رسول الله، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. everyone يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند. يا وجيهة يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا عند. يا وجيهة يا وجيهة اشفعي لنا عند. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك بحق علي، اللهم إنا نسألك بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين وبإمام زماننا وبدماء شهدائنا نسألك يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين بالنبي وآله الأطهار. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Bismillah. I want to thank Sayyid Alsheraa for his lecture and Mullah Farid al-Najafi for his recitation for the Nawha. A few brief announcements before we take a short break. This was the second night of our Fatimiya programming. Our third night will be held on Wednesday, December the 11th, with Sayyid Hussein Mekki, who will be joining us. The details will be on ACE Instagram. It'll looking like it'll start at 7:30 right now. Secondly, for the youth, ACE applications are currently open for people looking to participate and volunteer next year in helping to run more programs like this, contributing ideas back to our community. Pizza has come. Please, restore yourselves, sustain yourselves. For the women, it'll be in the alam room, and there's an entrance through the door in front of the partition. For the brothers, it is just on the other side of the partition in this main hall. Before we break, one sincere salawat for the sake of our amwat. Allahumma. There's a Q&A after the break. We'll break for a few minutes, perhaps maybe 10 minutes. There will be a Q&A led by Sayyid Hassan Alsheraa here in the main hall, open to all. Thank you.